Hey Muppets, welcome back to the Dirty Shirt Podcast. This is episode 12. I'm Nolan, and today we're going to be talking about drinks, history, and culture. And we're off like a boiling tea kettle. Coming up on this episode of the Dirty Shirt Podcast. 6 or 7 inches, the love of my mouth. What? People love alcohol. Blind tea taste? What is it? Blind
tea taste test.
That's a
right?
tongue twister.
Flip. What?
Yep. Frisky. There's going to be some good bloopers in this episode. Just me going, frisky. The feet of a nun. People love caffeine. Get a little bit of love handles on you, a little bit of, meat on the bone, as they say. Polar bears promoting the stuff. Come on. Maybe stop in, get a little latte. I don't know. I think that one was pretty good. All right. Well, it's good to be back. It's super weird being by myself. And hopefully you enjoyed Braden's episode, his solo episode last week, while my wife and I and family were down in Florida. It was super snowy here all week. We actually left the day before a huge snowstorm. Here in Lancaster, we got, I don't know. I wasn't here, so I think it was like 6 or 7 inches. I actually didn't try that. Anyways. But yeah, so it was probably the biggest snow we've gotten in a long time. And even now, close to 2 weeks after the snowstorm, it's just crazy here in the city. Parking is really tough. There's just huge snow piles. Parking is already kind of tough, parking on the street in the city. And now there's just 10 spots that you can't even use because everyone's just shoveling the snow that they don't want on their sidewalk just onto a parking spot. And it got super, super cold, in the single digit in Fahrenheit. And so it just got icy and just rock solid. So it's not even the plows can really do too much about it unless they brought in excavators and just hauled it off. Which I know they're doing in some places like Harrisburg locally, but we were not fortunate enough to have that done on our street. So, it's been fun coming back to the frozen tundra, but we really enjoyed our trip to Florida, and I hope you guys really enjoyed a solo podcast from Braden. It's pretty weird, not only not having a co-host for the first time, but also talking to myself or talking to GoPro is so weird. So hopefully this goes well and hopefully you guys enjoy it. But yeah, as we always talk about, we are the location. So today we're in Neighbors Cafe, which if you're a fan of the podcast, is a small coffee shop in Lancaster City that me and my wife own. And we've been running it for, I guess, 2 years and a couple months now. So it's been a fun learning experience. Obviously you know that. So we're growing, we're getting new things every day. We just bought a new fridge and I was doing electric work on that today. We have a new point of sale system that's going in. And I know we might have talked about this before. We have merch now. So cool hats, cool shirts. You can see them in the background too. Ugh. Yeah, it's fun to, part of the fun part of having a cafe, because there's a lot of fun parts and a lot of challenging parts. But one of the fun parts is creating a brand and finding something that you like. So these earthy tones and things like that were a lot of fun. And going off a classic motif of house and cup combined style. We did that and then did a more old school retro art style just detailed pencil lines for Lancaster City architecture, bricks and big windows and things like that, which is really fun, especially that we live here now. So Yeah, I guess that's kind of all the intro and updates I want to do. I do want to get into the meat of this episode. It's been something which is about coffee, drinks, tea, cafes. So it's kind of on topic. But yeah, obviously, over the 2.5 years or so that we've been open, plus the time for setup and prep, and even just like experiences, getting to travel around, and just meeting friends from different cultures, I just fell in love with coffee, with tea, with specialty drinks, with just how it's prepared. And so I want to share a little bit about that today, and specifically tea, because that's probably my favorite. That's my go-to. That's the love of my mouth. What? But actually, it's funny when people are like, "Oh, you own a cafe, whatever. What's your favorite drink of all time, whatever?" Water. Come on. Water is and always will be my favorite drink, and should be the greatest drink of all time. Water's the goat. Yeah, but also some other things that kind of inspired some of the content behind this episode was really three distinct things that like really inspired a new love and appreciation and curiosity into like teas and drinks and culture, like I mentioned in the intro. So Hank Green is a science YouTuber, communicator. He and his brother John Green have like the Vlog Brothers account, and they also have like their own accounts. So definitely check out their stuff. They have a bunch of amazing videos and different organizations and things that they run. But specifically, I was just inspired, and I love this his one video saying caffeine is very, very strange. So definitely watch that video. I'm going to be touching on some topics he talked about in there. Another inspiration is Tom Standage's book, A History of the World in Six Glasses. So each chapter moves through a different drink and how he viewed it and how it changed that cultural time period. And so we'll be touching on that quite a lot. And I'll be adding my own thoughts and opinions and my own prior knowledge to that as well. And then there's this one guy, Dylan O'Neill Rothenberg, and he has a YouTube channel called Woo Mountain Tea. He actually owns and runs like a huge tea processing facility in China, and is like fluent in Chinese, and he is awesome. It's like kind of on my bucket list to like visit like a tea facility sometime in China. And yeah, if I got to meet this guy, like he's like C tier famous, I would say. Like I feel like I would be a little bit like, that's awesome. That guy is so cool. But he's not like Jalen Hurts or like Kevin Hart or like somebody that's like just like A tier, like everybody would know them and recognize them on the street. So Dylan, if you're watching this, hit me up. I would love to come visit sometime. Anyways, yeah, so we're going to be talking a lot about drinks and a lot about coffee drinks, cafe drinks, and different things. But we're going to start kind of in a different place. It's not going to be the core of the video, but we're going to start the first section. People love alcohol, and society was built on it. So as I mentioned that book before, it kind of goes through 6 different drinks, and the first 3 are alcohol-related drinks for those early time periods of history. So the very first one is beer. So like a distilled, fermented wheat, barley, hops drink. And like early farming was in part and they make the claim that early farming, like for wheat and for barley, was used just as much for making and crafting beer as it was for making bread, like for making like the food that like sustained them. Um, this is kind of just coming. This is like ancient Egyptian, Mesopotamian cultures, and actually, like part of the reason that beer became so prevalent, or like these fermented drinks, is because the fermenting process of these drinks is what was killing like harmful bacteria like in the water. Obviously there's a lot of places, I mean, nowadays we like can't even think of a time where we didn't have access to like clean drinkable potable water. But it wasn't too terribly long ago in history that wasn't super accessible, and so making like a fermented drink out of it, would help kind of kill and dilute those harmful bacterias. So it was actually just commonly drank by everyone, like kids, children. Everyone was drinking it because that is a way that you could survive. That was a way you could get by. And so everyone was going around just like a little bit buzzed, which is crazy to think about. Like, in this day and age, just people going to work, you know, just driving to work just on one. Obviously, totally illegal these days. But we also have access to my favorite drink, fresh water. So it's not even something that we have to worry about. And I mean, one of the effects of alcohol, especially, something that's not super high strength, like probably a beer or a mead back in these days, would have, kind of calmed down people, had the physiological effect of making you more mellow, making you more chill, which in the book they talk about just it creating a community of just a common culture that people can kind of just like bond over. Obviously, like the idea of like a tavern or like a meeting place where everybody would consume the beer together would have been like super popular. And so creating that like dialogue, that conversation, he claimed was a huge part of creating a society and creating a culture, and even creating places that people wanted to settle down together in proximity. You're not just looking for land that you can grow crops anymore, or you're not just looking for places that are dense with animals to hunt, but you are looking, for community and looking for something like that. And there's like an ancient Egyptian proverb that says, "The mouth of a fully contented man is filled with beer," and it's like, yeah, it's kind of a crazy thing. Like, they would pay like wages and things like that in liquid, in beer, in the drink of that time. They say like make your heart glad with whatever. And I think, I don't know, it's one of those tough things too. Like you think a contented man, you think happy, but also like I think it's also like a subdued man. And like a lot of this time period was talking about like using it to kind of control and like standardize labor, and like, the benefit of beer, of this drink, of this time period was creating those communities. But it could be, easily standardize the labor. And like obviously we know Egypt had, plenty of forced labor and things like that. And so, I mean, we see images even today of the contented man, like filled with beer, Homer Simpson, or like Peter Griffin, or just those different like animated characters, and how they're just, they're drunk and to their limit all the time. And I think like, I don't, know what your personal opinion is on, the use of alcohol, but I think for me, I don't want to be the contented man. And so it's something I want to steer away from. and really don't want to have in my life. And that kind of goes for all like addictive substances. Like I want to be of like sober mind and thought. And so, yeah, but that was a part of this time period. And actually, like I said, the first 3 time periods are all alcohol oriented and based. So the next drink that kind of defined culture, defined the identity of that time period was wine. And you could see this super prevalent through like the Greek Roman kind of like Enlightenment time, where there was just philosophers and people were, looking into astrology and kind of thinking beyond themselves, which I think is a good thing to be thinking of. But, I think it also can be taken to excess. I know the wine, was like a status symbol. And I think, not because I think it like made you rich, as it's like, as wine can be a status symbol today, is like, oh, look at this $10,000, from the special valley of, Napa Valley, California, and 80-year-old grapes pressed by the feet of a nun. I like not that kind of status, but it was actually a status of like being able to like open your mind, but also control your liquor, like in a way that you could be like, oh, I can still be like enlightened but sober thought, was like a big theme of this time period of people wanting to go to these like, Greek halls and have enlightened conversation. But also it was like kind of like a flex to, hold your wine well, to like drink wine as you're having these lofty intellectual conversations. And that really created an atmosphere of elitism, but also like, so it's just people thinking they were higher class or higher standing than others. And again, kind of further promoting from the previous culture of like, having dominion over people. Maybe it's not forced labor as much in this time period, but just creating classes, and just having like generational wealth and things like that. And it also created a lot of individualism, people wanting to be free thinkers and be thinking for themselves. And so also a huge aspect of this time period and wine affecting this time period was the expanded trade networks of just, it's a new commodity that people really want, especially if it has the higher class associated with it. And so just opening up just new trade networks. And again, I mean, obviously the trades have a huge impact on the elitism and on the kind of dominion over another region or another country. And then we see that grow even more into the next phase. In the book, it goes into the third drink that defines the creation of the world, as spirits. So spirits, obviously not like a ghost or things like that, but like hard distilled liquor. So like I don't know, I don't partake, but like a vodka or a rum or things like that, I'm guessing. But like, things that you could distill high amounts or percentages of alcohol into really small containers. And so making the alcohol that was already super powerful from the previous time period, making it stronger, more potent, making it easier to transport, and making it easier to make money from, was a huge aspect of this. So this led to a ton of exploration, and kind of land development, like finding new sailing routes, just huge, long voyages. I know it's often told that Columbus sailed across the Atlantic to look for a new spice route because spices were the hot commodity of that time. And this was very similar, was finding new, faster routes to transport this highly potent, more addictive and more effective alcohol. And and something that they could make a huge profit from. And so in this stage, it led to even more just exploitation, profitization. It really enabled new economic systems that were prioritizing money over people, and even to the point of a lot of slavery routes, and just things like that. So just kind of that new wave of like almost the dark side of growing and growing quickly as a culture is kind of using someone else as a footstool to get the higher, to get the leg up, or to get the higher hand. And so that's kind of the first section that I broke it down into, was like the alcohol section. People love alcohol and society was built on it. Yes, it created community and it created conversation, and it created exploration and new insights. But it also created classes, and it created just elitism, and it created just the exploitation of people. And so there's a lot of exciting parts of just a new culture and a new stage of society, but it also comes with negatives as well. And so we just can't fully overlook those when we look at the history of the world in these 6 classes. So yeah, that got like a little bit heavy there for the moment, but don't worry, it does get better in some of the future drinks, especially my personal favorite, tea. But we're going to take a halftime from the program and talk about the next section. So the first section we talked about of the first portion of the history of the world told through drinks was alcohol-based. And then the next section of the 3 kind of society and cultures we're going to look at is caffeine-based, because people love caffeine. And yes, obviously there were ancient cultures that also delve into caffeine. I mean, tea has been around for a millennia, and there's ancient Asian cultures that were drinking caffeine, and other parts of the world, as we're going to talk about, because we're going on a Dirty Shirt Classic tangent onto caffeine. It's so fascinating. So there are so many different plants that produce caffeine. When we think about caffeine, we really only think about 2 that come to the top of our mind. Coffee is the main one, and tea. But there's actually many more, and they've all developed, all of these plants have developed the ability to produce caffeine independently. None of these plants are related. And they're actually on different continents, so like super far away. And this is just incredible. So like I mentioned, coffee, tea that come to mind on the top of your head. Maybe you're thinking cacao, like a chocolate, which does have caffeine in it. There's guarana. There's cola nut. There's yerba mate. If you've seen people, like it got really popular last World Cup. The Argentina team was carrying around yerba mate, and it got super popular. Highly caffeinated herbal tea. We'll talk about that later. There's a Yupon Holly, which is actually the only naturally caffeinated tea in North America. And then also Guayusa, which I think is found in some parts of the Amazon. And so across continents, these different plants developed caffeine. And you might be like, that's crazy. That's kind of weird that they all developed this. But actually, it's not so weird because caffeine is kind of just derived from adenine, which if you have recently taken a high school science course, is one of the 4 nitrogenous bases in DNA and RNA. So, like, you remember that, like, double helix with, like, the little, like, pieces that go together in the middle? It's one of the 4 nitrogenous bases that are the pieces in the middle. So caffeine is adenine derived. So it's not so crazy that all of these plants developed the ability to produce caffeine because it's a very readily available, just like part of the plant. And so experimenting with adenine, as Hank Green says, is one of the main things life does, is messing around with adenine. And obviously, these plants retained the ability to produce caffeine. And why is that? Because it's a bug poison. Yeah, so actually what's happening in our bodies when we drink caffeine or take in caffeine is the same thing. It's bonding to those receptors that keeps us alert and awake and a little bit, has a little bit of muscle twitching, a little bit on edge. After drinking a bunch of tea, you get a little bit, you going a little bit. Tea, not so much as coffee. But yeah, so it does the same thing in bugs, but it's much higher dosing just because they're so small. I mean, it takes a lot for us to consume the same amount. It's like a couple grams worth for us to be deterred or to be Jim Hensoned by caffeine. And it's also, so it's not super weird that all of these plants across the world have developed it. And actually, crazy fact, it actually bleeds into the ground and is harmful to other plants too. So they also have to develop the ability to be resistant to that too. But they've done that, obviously. And it's weird that they have it, but it's actually not. And then it's weird that so many cultures have developed different ways and a culture around steeping these in hot water or consuming them or drinking them in different ways. And that's also pretty weird. But then again, it's not, because people love caffeine. We love the effect that it gives us. We love the boost of energy. We love the awakeness. It's a little bit addictive. So people like that aspect too. Maybe not cognitively. They like, oh, I like being addicted to this. But they like that feeling that it gives them, and it keeps them wanting to come back. So that's why so many people drink 3, 4, 5 cups of coffee a day. And I will say thank you to those people, because I run a coffee shop. But yes, so that was a little Hank Green tangent. But I want to talk about, because I think it's so cool, so cool. But I want to talk about tea more because, like I said, tea is my favorite caffeinated drink, and it's probably my second favorite drink behind water. I talked about briefly about herbal teas. And if you watched the episode with Austin, the Christmas episode, I gave him a little bit of quiz if he knew the 6 main tea types. And spoiler alert, He did not. And I don't blame him because a lot of people don't. It's kind of an obscure fact. And unless you drink a lot of tea, you probably only know 2 of the types, maybe 3. And even if you drink a lot of tea, and even if you think you know tea, you might not know at least one of these. So the 6 main types of tea are white tea, green tea, black tea, oolong tea, yellow tea, and dark tea. Yeah. So those are the 6 main types of tea. You're probably saying, Nolan, what about peppermint tea? That's not a real tea. Nolan, what about chamomile tea? That's not a real tea. What do I mean by that? If not a real tea, I mean it's an herbal tea. So there's a lot of different herbal teas out there. There's rooibos, spearmint, peppermint, rose hips, chamomile, lemongrass, pine needles, mate. There's really anything that you can pick off the ground and edibly consume in liquid form. We can call it a tea, but it's actually an herbal. Think of it as like a spice, an herb. That's an herbal tea. So the process of making a liquid extraction has kind of become synonymous with the word tea. And so it's more of a language thing than it is like a scientific thing today. But today in this podcast, we're going to be talking about the scientific tea. And by that, I mean it comes from one plant. It comes from the plant Camellia sinensis, which is the tea plant. There are other real teas that come from versions of this plant, one being Camellia assamica, which which makes a very classic black tea, Assam black tea. It's a different hybrid that has kind of just bigger leaves. It's a little bit hardier. I believe it's mostly grown in the Africas, so it can survive kind of that climate. Whereas the Camellia sinensis is more in the Asias. So a lot of it in China, different parts of Japan, and it can be grown elsewhere now, but naturally originated in the China region. Hey Muppets, welcome to Intermission. We're going to do a blind tea taste test. And so what we have is we've prepared all of the different tea types. And so you can see whether you can actually trust the information that I'm telling you. We're going to put it to the test. I've been wanting to do this for a long time. And so we've brewed all the teas along with one mystery tea. And I'm going to have my lovely assistant, McKenna. Not officially a solo podcast now. We're going to have McKenna help me. She's going to hand me one tea at a time. I'm going to sip it, taste it, think on it, and then I'll guess what tea type it is. She'll set it where I guessed it. But the actual tea type is written on the cup. All right, so without further ado, let's get started with cup number 1.
There you are.
Oh.
You're not to put your fingers in. You're gonna wipe the words.
Oh, yeah. I'm so nervous. I'm like, man, I better get these right. I'd make a living on tea. Also, I'm such a baby when it comes to hot liquids. So I'm like, we just put these on. It was like 200 degrees. So I'm going to burn my tongue for sure. I'm like, an important part is the aroma, definitely, for sure. I mean, right off the bat, it's got a nice, smooth, not astringent taste. Oh, yeah, that's a morning time tea. That's an Assam black tea. You want to set that on the black tea for me?
Do you want your palate cleanser?
Oh, yeah. My favorite drink, water. Hope these are steep long enough. Cup number 2.
There you go.
Oh, yeah. To me, this is one of the more diverse teas. It's just got like a wealth of flavor. It's super woody. That's how I always describe it to people. I'm gonna go with oolong on that one. Tea number 3. I could smell it before it even touched my tongue. It's so fragrant. It's so dark. That's definitely the fermented. That's a dark tea right there. Oh, I should cleanse my palate again.
Yeah. Cleanse the palate.
I was like, the dark tea is a robust taste. That's one you got to cleanse after. That one's weird. That's got to be the mystery tea. I don't. It's got like a slight fruitiness to it. I'm gonna lock it in as the mystery tea, and if I had to guess, I'm gonna guess rose hips. Rose hips takes a long time to steep though, so I don't know. I mean, or at least longer. Cleanse my. All right, cup number 5. Oh no, that definitely wasn't rose hips. It was light. I was like, this one. Oh, what is this one? Oh, yeah. Okay, I got it. I don't know why I was struggling with that one so much. This is chamomile. This is chamomile for sure. Dang it. The last one was probably white tea. I was debating. All right, give me the last one back.
There's that.
Dang, I feel like a fool. Okay. All right, it's got a little bit of that dry mouth feel that a white tea has. I'm pretty sure that's the white tea.
And then your final tea.
Number 6. So if I got them right, this should be green. Smells pretty vegetal. Oh, yeah, that's a solid sencha. That's a nice green tea. Oh, man. All right, put that on the green tea. I feel bad because I feel like I claim white tea is my favorite tea. It is, like, so subtle, so nice. Maybe it's because it's closer to my favorite tea, water, or my favorite drink, water. But I feel pretty confident in this list. I'm excited to take the blindfold off. I'm going to
I
feel...
want to know how many you got right.
Wow. Oh, yeah. Tell me how much I got right. If I got any wrong, then I got to redeem it.
You currently have 2 correct.
What? No way. Oh, my goodness. I'm not posting this. No, I'm just kidding. Oh, my goodness. Okay. So chamomile is correct,
Yes.
and dark tea is correct.
Correct.
It has to be.
Yes.
That's crazy. I'm like, did I put the wrong teas in the thing?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right. I guess the two far ones are correct. So I guess start on the far right, or my right, your left if you're watching. Oh my goodness, that's such black tea. That's so black tea. Maybe they just didn't steep long enough. That's so put that where the black tea is. I said that one was white tea?
Mm-hmm.
Bruh. That's probably because it didn't steep long enough. We should have timed them.
What do you want now? Just the next one?
Yeah, go to the one that was placed on
Green or
oolong. I mean, this one's got to be green if I... Yeah. The fattiness is there. The leafiness is there. Yeah. That's the green tea. So then give me the one that was set on green tea.
Here it is.
Oh, man, that's so nice. I'm like... All right. Give me the other one. Oh, yeah, that one's so much sweeter. Okay. So this one's the oolong. That was really nice. I'm typically not an oolong person. I like almost usually add honey to it. That was so nice. I don't know. And then this is the white tea.
All right.
How many correct?
6.
Let's go. Man. I'm so embarrassed. But at the same time, how long did we let him steep? Like 30 seconds? A minute?
2 minutes.
2 minutes maybe? I think I was so thrown off by the first tea you gave me being so light in flavor that I was like, it's got to be the white tea. And it was like sweet, but like super subtle. It didn't develop like those fully like rich and like powerful black tea taste, which I guess I should have known, but it really smelled like black tea. I don't know why. I was
The white tea.
the first one you gave me.
Yeah, it was the white.
Yeah. Dang. Yeah. Well, I guess that's super telling for you people at home. You have to, an important aspect of tea creation is tea steeping time. And they're all different depending what it is. Pretty much as you go down the line here, it gets longer. And if you oversteep it, it gets pretty astringent, pretty bitter. And that's what people don't like about tea. And another thing people like say that when people say, "Oh, I don't like tea. Tea tastes bad. It's like tastes like I'm eating like raked leaves, things like that." One, you probably have low quality bad tea from like a Big and Low like tea bag from the store. And then the other thing is you might be brewing your tea wrong. So the other thing we did with this to make it easier was we did, like I said, 200 degrees for all of them and just poured it in. Actually, you want to go a little bit lighter, like in maybe the 170s, 180s for like a white, a green, an oolong. And then you're going to want to go, not quite boiling, but almost boiling for like the black tea, the dark tea, and same with the herbals, like the chamomile here. And tea time, like the tea steeping times are going to change too. For like a lighter tea, like we're talking the white, the oolong, the green, you're going to want to go like 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 30 seconds maybe before you're taking the tea out. Whereas the darker teas, so the black tea, you're going to want to steep. You can steep for upwards of like 5 minutes. Over 5 minutes, it starts to, again, get astringent and bitter. And that taste that we don't like associated with tea starts to come out. Aged tea is a little bit different. There's different ways to brew it, and a lot of times you'll brew it in like 30-second increments, and the flavor changes like over time, and you do really, really small cups of it. And then herbal tea, leave the tea in as long as you want, as long as flavorful as you want it. It won't, or most, I would say, not for all of them, but most of them you really can't go too hot or too long. Just depends like how pepperminty do you want your peppermint tea? How chamomile do you want your chamomile tea? But for the other ones, they are pretty standard times, and you can like look them up a lot of times online, or even on like specialty tea bags and things. It has recommendations on there. So we fell victim to that today, and that's a bummer. But we got them right at the end, so you can still trust me, I promise.
The chamomile was the savory sickness blend.
Oh, that's why it was so funky. It was so
I forgot to
funky.
tell you that.
Yeah.
I was like, chamomile was like the main thing, so I gave it to you.
Right, yeah. So we made a couple sickness blends here for like if you're congested, which I am all the time, or you're feeling a little sick under the weather. And this one specifically is chamomile with dried onion and garlic. It's basically like soup broth base, and it's great for clearing you out and making you feel better, but it's like a little off-putting to drink as a tea. So yeah, that was a funky one. That threw me off too, but no.
Pranked. That's all I've got. Thank
Nice.
you.
What makes these tea types different? If they all come from one plant, how can we have 6 different types of tea? The tea types all come down to the processing style. And so what do we mean by processing? We don't mean like white bread processing where like you just bleach the flour and you make it in a factory. We're talking about like the way that the tea is prepared after it's being plucked from the plant, that kind of processing. So we'll start with white tea. White tea is one of my favorite teas. It's a beautiful tea. It's kind of like, it's very light in flavor and in aroma. It's sweet. It's very mild and refreshing. I think the more that I get into tea, the more I really like the white tea and just the taste that it brings. And it's also the simplest tea to explain the processing. All you do for white tea is when you're in the field, you pick the leaves off of the tea plant and you set them down kind of on the ground on a tarp or something like that, and they just let it's a process called withering, and you let just the tea leaves kind of dry up in the sun. And so what it's creating is a drought response in the tea leaf. And so it's kind of, bringing the water to the more central areas, to try to kind of stay alive a little bit longer. And it's the sun is evaporating, the water out of the leaf. And so it's triggering a drought response in the tea leaf, and that's what makes it a white tea. And then they kind of have this whole drying process, which all of the teas have to dry out the tea so that it can last and it can be saved and bagged and shipped and savored, and so that it doesn't, spoil and rot and mold. So yeah, white tea is the withering, setting out in the sun drought response. So that's what makes it white tea. And all of the different methods of processing are to bring out a different stress response that produces a certain flavor and aroma, and it's done very carefully, to not make it, to not lose that. And so there's just been thousands of years of experimentation with the correct way to do it and the correct time. I mean, obviously you can't leave the leaves out to wither for 3 days. or for 3 months. But it's a very controlled withering process. For green tea is the next tea we're moving on to. There's a process called fixing, which is basically they turn the leaves in these big hot steel drums. And so it's heating them while spinning them. And what it's doing is it's trying to halt the enzyme activity that's happening within the leaf. So basically it's trying to lock in that tea leaf at a certain stage. And for green tea, they do it right at the beginning, because green tea, like I mentioned, it's a great tea. It's more vegetal, and it's a little bit more leafy. It's got like a sweetness and a fattiness to it. You can actually tell if you have really good high quality tea leaves. You can taste the fattiness, just like as people. If you eat in excess of nutrients and excess of food, you get a little bit of love handles on you, a little bit of meat on the bone, as they say. Same thing happens in plants. If it's a really fertile soil and it's a really great location for this green tea, it'll actually form a little kind of protective, like glossy, fatty coating. Not like super visible. Obviously, it's not 3 inches or anything, but you can taste that in the tea. And so green tea, you want to harness all of those really just natural plant raw tea flavors. And so you're going to halt the enzyme activity almost right at the beginning. And there's also just a rolling process that they do as well. And then, like I mentioned, that drying process at the end to make sure the tea can last for a long time. Next tea, oolong tea. Oolong is such an interestingly crafted tea. It's got so much variety of flavor. I describe it as kind of like woody and it's also sweet, and it's also got that leafiness to it. So it's kind of a mix of a couple different types of processing. So it actually starts with the withering process, but it doesn't do it as long as white tea does. And then it goes into probably the thing that makes oolong the most unique, into a bruising process. So again, back to our human anatomy. If you get hit, on a muscle or on your skin, you get hit, and then over time, if you get hit really hard, a bruise starts to appear. The little purple, the little blue, the little black. Same thing would happen in tea, actually. So they will have kind of like either pans or drums, and they'll kind of toss the tea around, and it'll make little impacts on the tea, and that will produce, and then they'll let it sit, and then so those impacts, hurt the tea leaf, and it actually bruises and changes in color, in texture, in aroma, in taste. And so they do that multiple times, just kind of beating up this tea, which is crazy. But it actually makes it taste in a certain way, and it's an excellent tea. After the bruising process, they move to the fixing process to preserve that flavor, to stop the enzyme activity, to keep that flavor kind of locked in. And then they'll a lot of times roll it. If you see oolong tea, it's kind of rolled up into balls, and then when you steep the tea, they become these huge leaves. If you have a really nice tea, you'll have sizable leaves. Sometimes a little smaller if you get the buds at the top. That's really fancy, high expensive tea. I'll talk about that in a bit. The next tea type, black tea. So black tea, again, it starts with that withering process, but not super long. So it's set out in the sun. It's rolled a little bit, but the thing that's most unique about black tea is a fermentation process. So a lot of times that tea is taken then in sacks and it's put into bins or baskets and it's put into a room that's really, really humid. Sometimes they'll have humidifiers running or, they'll have hot stones and put water on it. So they want the room very moist and humid, so that it's actually starting this fermenting process in the leaf. And then after it's fermented, usually I think about 4 hours or so, for most black teas, then they dry it, so that it's, again, the drying process to preserve it for long term, so that way you can use it 2 years down the road and it's not rotting tea. Now this is one of the lesser known tea types, and it's actually the least produced tea type in the world, and that is yellow tea. Yellow tea actually starts with the fixing process as well, like a green tea would. It's pretty similar to green tea. I've actually never tried white yellow tea. I would love to one day, but again, like I said, it's not super produced because it's not super popular, and a lot of people don't think it's super different from like a green tea would be. But obviously there's another process in it. So there's rolling and then there's a yellowing process, which actually makes it different from green tea. But in color, in extraction, it's a little bit brighter, a little bit yellower. But from what I've heard in taste, it's not super dissimilar from like a green tea. So apparently we're not missing out on much by not having yellow tea. We can just stick to the high quality green teas, but I would love to try it someday. So hopefully I'm able to. And then last but not least, dark tea. And dark tea is also kind of known as fermented tea is another way people talk about it, or people will just call it pu'er, which is the most common type of dark tea is a pu'er tea. So it's just a way of kind of saying that most common type of dark tea in Chinese. And so I probably butchered that as I said it, so forgive me. So a dark tea starts with the fixing process to kind of, halt some of that enzyme activity and preserve some of that flavor of the raw leaf. Then it goes into a rolling, and then actually the thing that makes it a dark tea is a post-fermentation. And this can be months, this can be years, this can be decades. They age tea for so long, and a lot of times you'll see it pressed into tea cakes. So it's kind of like a patty of dried tea, just so that it's stackable and it's together and it's not just in a bag somewhere. And I think it's also helps kind of with the fermentation process. And so it can be aged just years and years and years. So on the topic of dark tea, I had to look it up. There's a famous Chinese saying or proverb that says 1 year tea, 3 years medicine, and 7 years treasure. So like I said, like they can be aged for years and years. And there's also a huge culture in Asia, but all around the world, of using tea as kind of for medicinal purposes, using it as a medicine. The belief that it can heal certain ailments, and that is certainly true. It can definitely, add a lot of health benefits to your life. I won't go into all of that. If you're interested in more, definitely check out Wu Mountain. And like I said, I've learned so much from Dylan, and he has a full masterclass on tea, just hours of content. And if you have the time, definitely check it out. But yeah, so I just love that when it talks about dark tea. 1 year, it's just tea. But 3 years, it's a medicine. It can heal you. And 7 years aged, now that's a treasure. That's something you can write home about. That's something that can add some value to your life. So, now that I got that all out of my system, I stood on my soapbox and talked about my tea. We can kind of continue to how tea impacted impacted the world. And obviously, like I said, there was cultures even further back than this example of how tea impacted. But this is the one that was referenced by Tom Standage in his book, and so that's what I'll go off of today. But yeah, they said like tea, it gave routine, and it also provided status and intellectual growth. So yeah, just like some of the other ones, like I think specifically this is talking about just the British Empire and the tea trade that we saw from that. Just the morning routine of just, oh, it's tea time. This is the time that we have tea. It being a status symbol, especially for the rich, for the wealthy. We would see the queen drink tea, and with little sugar cubes and crumpets, and that became a status symbol. And again, that idea of the community of having like a tea house or a place that people would meet and gather around tea and talk about it. It created stronger trade routes. Like I said, like almost with the spirits, like it created new avenues where people were like, we have to transport this tea because we're making money, and we have to transport it because people want to drink this tea. And it established dominance over some regions. There is a huge wealth of empire that came from the British at that time, but it also sparked rebellions. I mean, let's talk about the elephant in the room, the Boston Tea Party. Anyone? No taxation without representation. Like I said, it was used as kind of as a symbol to say that we are more than someone else, or that we are a different class than someone else. And like I said, it does get better from the spirits of last society, that it actually kind of people stood up to it. And because, under the influence of alcohol, people kind of felt like they were kind of being oppressed. But one of the things that was mentioned in the book is that it broke the synchronized labor across an empire, especially becoming slightly more global. I mean, it's very hard to manage somebody across an ocean, and especially with high demands. And so that's why we ran into kind of these rebellions and this feeling of a newfound identity was kind of key for this time period. And then we move into a more modern day, the next drink being coffee, and just how that developed society. There's a quote from the book that says, "Coffee houses functioned as the internet in the age of reason." And so, before people had, the internet to rely on for their news and for their daily, for the newspaper, like it was coffee houses. It was, the gossip on the street. We know gossip is history. What's happening around there, politics was happening in a coffee shop. Intellectual conversations, were happening in a coffee shop. Everybody was meeting there. And because also coffee was more potent in caffeine, it increased your productivity. It heightened your alertness. It even curbed your appetite. So you could work faster, you could work harder and longer because of the coffee. And so just a huge boost in productivity, a huge boost in kind of that idea of, I can do it myself. I have the energy, I have the willpower, I have the gumption to go and do it. And it also, like some of the other phases, in that coffee house environment, it encouraged rational thought. It encouraged thinking things through, and not just kind of doing things because you had to, but doing things that made sense to you, things that you could think through, and discussing that with peers. And so that was just a huge new culture that had developed. And then we move into the modern age, into the 20th century. We move into soda. Soda is the last caffeinated drink that we have to represent a current culture and our current climate of just being super global. The globalization. You can turn anywhere. You can go to any corner store and you can find a very popular brand. Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola, it's everywhere. It is impressive how well they became global so quickly. It was one of the first things that was like a branded and mass-produced drink that was, sent out on such a large scale. There was nothing like this before Coca-Cola. And so this is just a time period of globalization, industrialization, of just a dominance and of a brand as well. And we talk about engineered to be on a large scale. It's also something that's engineered to be stronger, to be sweeter, to be more addictive, to have more caffeine, to make us more productive. And like I said, it wasn't something that was just a drink. It was an idea. It was an icon. It was like a status symbol that was easy to obtain. This is probably one of the first times we saw big time commercials, big time ad campaigns. Polar bears promoting the stuff. Come on. So it's everywhere. And I think back to, I had the privilege to go to visit a remote region in Honduras. And so we flew into the capital city of Honduras. We got into a taxi and we drove 3 hours towards the coast. And then we got onto like a 15-passenger plane. And we flew to kind of a smaller remote island. Like I'm talking, we landed on a dirt airstrip. And we kind of got situated there. And we weren't done yet. We flew from there in a 5-passenger plane, 4 or 5, I don't remember. And we flew there to an even more remote island that you couldn't get to with the bigger plane, and landed on a dirt airstrip there. Then we actually trained up some students, and we were in a school there. It was a really cool to teach in Spanish, and I actually got to teach an art class in Spanish, which was really fun. And we took some students from there, and we took them on a trip even further. It was a 12-hour, they called it papante. It's kind of just a really big canoe. So we had 20 to 25 people on this big canoe, and we rode it 12 hours up the river to this really, really remote location. I'm like, there's it's insane that I'm here right now. I'm like, man, how do you even get out this far? There's obviously no cellular, there's no running water, there's no things like that. But you know what was there? Coca-Cola. We pull up in the Papante, and we're getting out, we're unloading our stuff, we're saying hi to some of the locals, and there's just young boys, and they're just carrying 2 liters of Coke just on their shoulders. Just Coca-Cola everywhere. And we're like, what? It took us multiple days to get here. This is absurd. And nonetheless, the globalization, industrialization, and the dominance of a brand is what I can say for this age. And yeah, and it really, it enabled economic systems that prioritized money over people a lot of the times. We talked about it being engineered to be sweet and strong and addictive and have caffeine. That's not really looking out for the best of the health of the people consuming it. But they're kind of okay with that. And I think it points out, where have we heard that before? It points out the parallelisms of the previous societies. So I kind of just want to, I was thinking about it. I was like, this is kind of cool as I was going through the book that the first three kind of alcoholic beverages had a lot of parallelisms to the next three drinks that happen to be caffeinated drinks. So we think about beer and we think about coffee, and it created spaces of discussion, and it kind of had more controlled labor in different ways, but it had a huge impact on how the labor was running of that time period. And we think about wine, and we think about the tea, and how it kind of created an elitism. It created a class structure of kind of people that were thinking they were kind of superior than another. And then, kind of gets to its worst as we go to spirits and into soda, and, where it was mostly prioritizing just the profit of the product, and an exploitation of the people that either produced it or even the people that are consuming it, or both. And so, yeah. So it just kind of, makes me think about where we're moving today. And, what will the next drink be that will define a culture and will define a society? And I'm hoping that it moves to something that is more community based and is more for the people, and kind of breaks away from some of these kind of profitable cycles that we've gotten into. So yeah, I don't know what that's going to be, but I'm encouraged for the future that we can do that. And but at the same time, it's not all cut in stone. You can only drink this drink in this time period, and it's got these and good and bad traits. I think all of these have a time and a place. And obviously, like I said, I do a lot of work with coffee. I do a lot of work with tea, and there's so much beauty that comes from it, from meeting new people and having shared experiences, or sharing a culture with somebody, can just be so fun. And so, that's what we really try to do here, is represent different cultures and create shared experience and community. And you can do that through drinks. You can do that through food as well. And so, yeah, I really hope you've enjoyed listening to my yap session. Yeah, so final thought, I think, before I go, is I'm just thinking, through all of this good and bad and interesting things that through culture represented by these different drinks, let's choose the good out of it, and let's choose community, and let's choose conversation, and let's choose compassion and loving one another, and being there for one another. And let's sit down together, and let's have coffee, let's have tea. Let's go out and get a latte. I think the more that we can just have shared experiences with together, the better this world could be. And go and invite a friend and try out something new, experience a new cultural drink, or share a drink that's important to you with someone else. So there's a lot of potential here, and I think there's a lot of beauty in it. Yeah, and I just think, hey, you are what you drink. So without further ado, thanks for watching, thanks for washing, and do your laundry. Bonus segment.
We don't have to put this anywhere. I just kind of want to try.
Dang, I feel so silly. I feel so pranked. That first one got me. I was like, it's sweet, it's light.
It was the white tea.
No, it was the black tea. I said it was the white tea.
No, it was the white tea, and you said it was the black tea.
Oh, really?
That first one. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe I just didn't. I thought it wasn't steeped enough.
Yeah, I think you might have been overthinking it.
I was overthinking it. I'm
Nope.
tripping.
I was like, just trying not to giggle every time you said the wrong one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so tough.
Okay. My turn. I really don't think I'll do well, but I kind of just want to try. But
If
I
you
also.
get them all, I'm definitely not posting it.
That's okay. I'm also like, I was kind of sniffing some of them as I was giving them to you.
Yeah.
So maybe I cheated a little bit.
What?
So I don't know if that gives me like an advantage.
No, I mean I was sniffing them when I was.
Yeah, but I was sniffing them and I knew which ones they were.
Yeah.
So okay, let's go. I'm ready. Ooh. Okay. That's really smooth and light. I'm gonna go with the white tea. Because it tastes like water. White. I don't really, yeah. Oh, that's the dark tea. It smells funky. Maybe not. That might actually be the green tea. I'm going to say green. Next tea, please. Green and oolong kind of just taste the same. So I don't know which this one is. And I don't know the difference. That one's weird. I'll go oolong, I guess. Right? I said green for the last one?
Yeah.
Okay. This is so silly. Oh. We don't need to post this anywhere. Savory sickness, chamomile. They're all really blending together in my mouth. I don't know. Crap. I don't believe that this is a black tea. But that's kind of my only option right now. So I guess maybe black tea, but I don't believe it.
I mean, you can guess something else. You can either
Yeah.
double stack it, or you can guess something else, and I'll give you that one that was sitting there.
I don't know what it is, to be honest, though. I don't know.
Do you want me to double stack it or put it?
Here, wait, give me that again. Right now, most of these teas are tasting like green tea.
Yeah.
I don't know. Put that behind. Put it behind the green tea.
Do you want to leave the green tea there that you had? guessed?
Give me the last one for now, and then I'll come back to it. Ooh. Dark tea. Is that? I'm gonna go with that. That tasted really strong.
Do you want to?
Oh, give me the first green tea. That I said, right? I said this one was a green tea?
Yeah.
Where's my water? Thank you. This one smells so weird. Okay, I'm going black tea, I guess, for that one.
And then, do you want to taste the one you said green tea?
No, I'm gonna leave it there.
All right, you got.
Oh, he has to look. Chat, I don't think I got too many right.
You got 2 correct.
Let's freaking go, dude.
Here, taste this one again.
Is this the first one?
This is the first one you said was white tea.
Oh, I liked this one. This is a good tea. It's sweet, it's very light and smooth. I'm shocked this isn't the white tea.
Yeah?
Coming back to it even.
It's good to know you like this tea. That's fun.
Is this oolong?
Mm-mm.
What the heck? Is this green tea?
Mm-mm.
Black tea?
No.
Flip. What? Is
Dark
this the dark tea?
Yeah.
This one's, wait, try it. It tastes really good.
Yeah, it's nice. But it's super rich. It's like, it's,
I know, but it's sweet. It just like slides right down.
yeah.
It doesn't, it's like, it's very like, I feel like it tastes, it's like kind of sweet and smooth.
Yeah.
I guess I smell it now.
Yeah.
Kind of earthy, crunchy. But like,
Yeah.
it tastes good.
Yeah, dark tea is nice. I feel like people just don't know. It's not a common one.
Yeah. I don't drink it very often.
All right,
Okay.
Do you want to look or do you want
Yeah, I think I just want to look.
All right, go for it.
Okay. Which one did I get right?
You got oolong right.
Okay, slay. I felt pretty good about the oolong.
So you said dark.
Yeah.
Oolong.
Ah, freaking. Did I have the green tea right at first?
You did have the green tea right.
Oh, I should have left it. Okay, I'm honestly not too ashamed of that. Because I knew this one wasn't the black tea.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what do you do? I almost, dang it. I was doing so good. The dark tea really threw me off.
That was the first one I gave you. You said white tea, and I was like,
No, it was good. I'm like, in my head, white tea tastes... Oh, this just tastes really strong right now.
it's pretty, yeah.
I'm like, I think that was like...
You kind of fell victim to the over extraction,
Over-steeping.
where like, so I was a little under extracted and McKenna's was a little over extracted. So I guess take these samplings with a grain of salt. I feel like we both did pretty good.
Because try that. That doesn't taste like white
Yeah.
tea.
I mean,
It does,
it
I
just
guess.
has like that.
That like...
It has that mouthfeel, right?
Yeah, that that mouthfeel is very green tea to me.
No, green tea is a little bit smoother, I think.
Yeah, whatever. All right, chat.
You did good.
I
I'm
didn't do
proud
too
of you.
good. All right, thanks.